and welcome to the Fat Squirrel Speaks. Today is Wednesday, September something. September? March something. And this episode 101. So begins the new millennia. Not a millennia. Just shush. I'm Amy Beth, also known as the Fat Squirrel on Ravelry, and the Fat Squirrel, SQRRL, on Instagram. I'm your hostess, if you can't figure that out. I'm sure you could figure that out. Let's see. I'm discombobulated as usual. Shenanigans, there are none. I know, right? If you're a new viewer, I used to actually have shenanigans. This was not a pretend, made-up plot segment thing. I promise. There were actually shenanigans. But that was the time when the Earth was warmer. Considerably warmer. There were still polar ice caps. But they did not extend to Indianapolis, Indiana. Because that's where they are right now. So I apologize that there have been so few shenanigans. So instead we'll do shenanigans of the mind. How about that? Let's do shenanigans of the mind. So this week I thought I would talk about... Okay, so what will the show consist of this week? Well, it consists of shenanigans of the mind, knitting and spinning, and then we'll also at the end consist of mailbag or board bag, something. So it'll have some questions that you asked on the 2,000 member prize thread. And I think that's all. Oh, I'll also talk... Maybe I'll have like future shenanigans. I'll also talk a little bit about a random product review. We'll just say that. We're just going to do a random product review at some point. Do I know when? Not so much. Let's talk about it though. Okay, so let's talk about what I'm watching first. Because I feel like I need to clarify because I might slip in some weird phrasing. What's occurring? I have been watching Gavin and Stacey like a crazy person. Do you know what this is? Okay, Netflix used to have a season of Gavin and Stacey, which is a British show, UK show. And it's about a young couple, and like one is from Wales and one is from England, and they're in love and da 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 da. But it's a comedy. And let me also clarify that it is not a comedy for young people or those that are faint of heart when it comes to raunchiness. I'm a body gal, I enjoy some body humor, so I enjoy a lot. So for the longest time they had season 1 on Netflix, and I loved it. It was awesome. Because there's the character on there, and her name is Vanessa. And she is who I see. She's not really who I want to be. Oh, I just broke that clip. I'm such a Hulk. That clip I had in my hair, I was fiddling with it, totally broke it. Beast. But Vanessa is also a beast. She's a beast. She's a big gal. She wears lots of fishnets and leather skirts and boots. And she is super, super dry. Like completely non-emotive. And snarky and wonderful. So anyway, Amazon. I haven't checked Netflix. But Amazon Prime now has seasons 1, 2, and 3. So I may have been binge watching them. I have been binge watching them. I've been sewing bags and watching Gavin and Stacey. So I don't actually laugh out. I don't lull that much while I'm watching television. I might chuckle internally, but I'm not a big luller. I have been found in my kitchen because I'll can't even stop in the middle of an episode. If I have to go make food or do a dish or something. The annoyances of life, right? I can't even be bothered to stop the show. I will because I've been sewing, so it's on the iPad with the wireless headphones, right? So fancy. So then I have to take it into the kitchen with me. And one day my husband was home, because I don't do it with the kids here, because, I gotta be able to hear in case she cuts her own head off or something. So I'm in there doing dishes, laughing hysterically. My husband comes in and is like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "She's a hoot!" So that's my recommendation of the week. Gavin and Stacey. Love it. Love it. Adult content, clearly. Don't judge me. Judge me, but don't tell me. I won't care. Okay, so then what have I been reading? So I've been reading, okay, so I read and I listen to, okay? So I have a nighttime book that I read because quite frankly, I only have time, I only make time to read at night, which is terrible, I know, right? And so it's usually like that 3 minutes before I fall asleep that I read a page and a half. So I have given up on reading anything that's written above like an 8th grade level at nighttime. I'm not even gonna lie to you, right? Terrible. I'm pausing right now for the phone. I'm back. Oh, so I can't rate anything above an 8th grade level. I hate to admit this about myself, but it's 100% true. So I can't always read young adult books because while they're very interesting, they are about young adults, and sometimes I don't have time for that nonsense. I know, right? I'm so terrible. It's true though. Like I need something written at the level of a child, but not about children. You know, again, when you're about to have a child, they always warn you that you're gonna get fat. I was already fat. I was like, yeah, no big deal. Nobody warned you that your IQ was gonna drop by like 30 points. Duh! Anyway. So what I'm reading right now is a book called One Bad Apple, and it's by Sheila Connolly. I think it is what we would call a cozy mystery. Is that what we would call it? I think that's what we call it. It's a mystery, and it's cozy. It's written at 8th grade level, I think. But it's very it's okay. That's a lie. That's total hyperbole. It's not very enjoyable. But I am enjoying it because I've read 2 other books by this author. She has 2 books that are set in Ireland about a woman from Boston who goes to Ireland and owns a bar. She's a little bit into the plot stretch. Like, it's a little bit like, really? That's an interesting coincidence. So it's that kind of thing. But still pleasant, you know? Again, it's like TV. Not really a lot up here, but enjoyable. So I would say the same thing about this book. However, the difference is I got sucked in because it was by this author that I just listened to a couple books by. And then also, what was I going to say? It's an Orchard series, Sucked In #1. It's set in the Pioneer Valley in Massachusetts, which is where I went to college. Northampton is featured. It's so fun, right? I think it's a totally cheesy thing, but it's still fun. So every time she says anything about anywhere I know, I'm like, ah! I know the Northampton Hotel. It is fancy. So it's enjoyable in that way. Is it that well written? Is it pleasant to read for 3 to 5 minutes at a time? There you go. What I am listening to. Let's see what I'm listening to on Audible. I am currently listening to... Are you ready? I'm listening to Outlander. Really? Yes, I am. Brain Rot 5000. Actually, Outlander is actually not... I feel like that's a pretty well written book. It's enjoyable. Like, it's not... I'm not constantly like... It's a little bit much, but I feel like it's done well. You know what I mean? Like, and I enjoy the plot, so that's fun. I'm also listening to, what else am I listening to? I just finished The Tale of Hilltop Farm, which is by Susan Wittig Albert, and it's one of those Beatrix Potter cozy mysteries. Okay, so Paula very briefly talked about this on her podcast, Knitting Pipeline, because she was talking about Beatrix Potter and her like very Renaissanceian self, and that she was a writer, but she was also a lady farmer, and it talks about the sheep and everything. I can't remember what they're called now. Anyway, it's very Hedwig. Is that right? Did I just make that up? Is there an angry inch somewhere? But I think that's what they are. The Hedwig sheep. Anyway, there's a very rare breed that only exists in the very specific in the lake region. Lake County. That's not right. Anyway, so this is a cozy mystery, and it's kind of in that vein of like, there's been several that have been written from the perspective of historical women gone sleuthy. So it's written like that. And because it's Beatrix Potter, there are animals in there that talk to each other. But they don't talk to people, and they don't wear clothes. Yet. They might later. I don't know. But I kind of enjoyed that. Like at first when Paula mentioned it, that she was not interested because she had read a little bit and it was a little bit too much. So I was like, well, I'll give it a try. I actually kind of enjoyed it. The animals are like, it's just like a narrative commentary on what's going on. You know what I mean? They're animals that are talking to each other. But that said, I have tried to read books like Redwall and Watership Down. I could not read them. Like when it was just all animals interacting. I can't do it. I want to, but I can't. So this was nice in that the animals had provided like an additional commentary and sometimes kind of tied different like social groups together because the animals would go from place to place. But they don't have, I would not say that it's definitely a minority of the narration is the animals. I would say maybe, I would not even say it's a fourth, maybe a fifth, maybe. Anyway, I think it was interesting. Try it out if you like a cozy mystery, which I do. Can't help it. I enjoy them. I'm just having like reflections on my, 21-year-old self and what I would think at 21. Were I to actually see this right now, I think I would be horrified. Not only do I sew for a living, I have a knitting podcast in which I talk about cozy mysteries. Whatever. I'm having a good time. I'm much happier than I was when I was 21. So take that, 21-year-old self. Take it. Then what else am I reading? Listening to. Let me clarify. I'm also listening to, Audible has the great courses, which my library used to always have on, what do we call those things? CDs. I don't think my library has a lot of digital content, but I don't think they have those available for all downloads. So I'm listening to them through Audible. And so I'm listening to The Other Side of the Ancient World, which is a course narrated by Professor Robert Garland. And it's all about the other side of history, meaning like the people, like as almost like everyday lives and what happens in those, like what we can kind of understand happening in everyday lives. It was very interesting. Now it is set up like it's a lecture. It's not a narrative, not even nonfiction. Like it is a lecture, but I find it very interesting and I kind of do that as my like meat before my pudding. Like, yes, you can listen to Outlander, but perhaps first you should try not to lose 27 brain cells. So it's good in that way. What else? That's what I'm listening to now. And that's quite good. Oh, the other book that I listened to by Sheila Connolly. Sheila Connolly is the one who wrote The Orchard thing, right? Okay, yes, I said that. I listened to Scandal in Skibbereen and Buried in a Bog. Buried in the Bog is the first one. Scandal in Skibbereen is the second one. I recommend them equally as I recommend these Orchard books, which is if you got nothing else to do. If you're sewing a gajillion bags. But like if you have limited time, don't bother. Okay? Okay. So that's that. Let's talk about knitting and spinning. Actually, let's talk about my mug first. I apologize I'm drinking coffee in front of you, but it is currently 8:30 and I haven't had any yet. So I got this new mug. Well, canteen. I don't know. What do you call these things now? I don't know. It's not just a mug. A new travel hot beverage decanter. And it is by, I heard this first from Bronwyn the Brave of Knitting Pipeline. And I believe it's the same one that she talked about last year when she was, I think she was talking about the Knitting Pipeline retreat, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's the same one because I remember being like, oh, because it is by, let me butcher this, 107%. It is by Zoyarushi or something like that. It's the little Japanese brand with the elephant, and it begins with a Z and ends with an ushi. I am not a paid sponsor, can you tell? They are not a paid sponsor. I'm trying to find it right now. Anyway, it is, oh, there we go. Zojirushi. That's what I'm going with. Here it is on Amazon, the one that I purchased. So you can see the name. I'll try to remember to put a link in, but let's face it, sometimes I fail. And it is like, I can't remember, I don't know if it says how many ounces it holds, but they have them in several different colors. There's like blue and pink, and it's not like a hot pink, it's like a blush kind of pink, and a champagne and a teal and a etc, etc. So they have them in several different colors. Mine is brown. I'm trying to remember what it says. I can't find it, how many ounces it holds, but it holds more than like a Keurig's largest cup dispensary, I don't know. So it holds bigger than that. It does not fit under a standard Keurig coffee maker. It's too tall. But what I can do is take off my like drip guard thing, and then I put this in slanty style and just hold it, and that works. And it holds coffee hot forever. Forever. I think that it says 6 to 8 hours, and I would definitely say that that is correct. Because if you don't, I enjoy coffee quite a lot, but if I put anything cold, like a creamy thing of any sorts, in my coffee, it's always cold before I can drink it. Like always. Because as a, you know, as a person, as a human, there's always 27 things that happen between the coffee maker and the place that you're going. So it gets sat down for like just a few minutes, but then you come in, it's already cold. You're like, oh. And I do enjoy a very hot coffee. This, however, even if you put a cold creamery thing in it, it's still hot and will stay that temperature and not drop. So I actually almost have to put a cold creamery thing in it, because if you don't, if you just put the hot coffee in there and like a dry creamery thing, don't judge me, I enjoy the dry creamery thing. Back off. If you put the dry creamery thing in there and then seal it up, it will burn your tongue for 800 hours. 800 hours, maybe. See, so either you would have to somehow like run the coffee stream through ice and then put it in. But you could, you know, you could figure it out. But you had to leave it open or something for a little while so it'll cool off. Is that effective? So why am I talking about this for the Knitting Pipeline retreat, you ask? Well, because one of my biggest recommendations for retreat going is that you have fancy things to drink from. And by fancy, I mean fancy, but also very practical. This thing, you sit this on the table while you're knitting and somebody bumps it over, because you know that polish will just tear things up. Coffee doesn't go everywhere, right? So not only do you not, then you don't have to worry about that happening, but then you just don't have to, like, that's probably not going to happen, but I worry about it happening the whole time my cup is sitting on the table. Because I have like, last year I brought like a actual cup, like a travel cup that had a lid on it, but it didn't like, it was not, like if you turn it over, it will slowly spill. Okay, so it's not going to be like a deluge of coffee, but it will slowly spill. That's not what you want to have happening. This is very easy to open. See, look. It flips open like that. You can enjoy your beverage. See, it's like far enough out here that your lip can fit there with comfort. I do have a smallish nose. It does hit that little buttony thing, but not like uncomfortably. And then you just close it up and it snaps and it's completely closed. It also has a lock on it if you want to be very fancy, and you can tow this lock and then it won't even open. So like if you want to put it in your bag and you're afraid that because you're me and you would accidentally somehow hit this button with your butt, even though that's technically impossible because your butt doesn't have a giant hard nipple on it, it would still happen to me. So you can even lock it. Isn't that clever? This is not inexpensive. This was, I think I showed it to you, it's like $32. This is not inexpensive. However, I feel confident that will last quite a long time because I have a rice maker by the same company and it's excellent. I've had it for, I would say I've had it probably for the length of my child's life. So I've had it probably for 7 years and it still works very well and I use it quite frequently. And it has Do you have a rice maker? Does it have a porridge setting? Do you cook oatmeal in it? That's a revelation right there. If you don't know about that, it'll change your life. No, it won't. But it'll change your breakfast eating. If you have, like, I have a very small rice maker because there's only, well, when I bought it, there was only 2 of us, and my husband actually only counts as a third of a human when he's eating. I count as 5/3, so actually it really comes out to 2. But it's a small one. It's not like one of those giant rice cookers you have to cook like 6 cups of rice in. You can cook like a cup of rice in it, and it will come out well. But it also has a porridge setting, which you can make rice pudding. I've never had that successfully happen, but I've only tried once, so I should try it because that sounds really good right now, right? Oh my gosh, I totally want rice pudding. Do I even have white rice in this house? No. Dang it! Dang it! Anyway, it has a porridge setting, so you can put your... I don't like regular oatmeal anymore. I also don't like the pin oatmeal. I don't like that either. I like the thick cut oatmeal. Do you know what this is? It's just regular oatmeal, except it has not been pressed as much. So it is thicker and it has more body, but it's not as like, it's not like as pasta-y feeling. Like it doesn't have that bite that the pin oatmeal has. And it seems extra creamy for some reason. I don't know how that happens, but it seems like that to me. Okay, I just talked a really long time. But anyway, that was to say, I like this brand. And also when my rice cooker is done, it sings me a happy song. It does. It sings a happy song when your rice is done. This does not sing you a song. I'm sorry. Moving on. Some of you were like, oh my gosh, should I timestamp this for you? I probably should. Okay, let's talk about spinning. So last week I was spinning on my Merino Superwash Merino Tessa Silk. It's a 40-40-20 in the Pond Reflections colorway by the lovely folks at Three Waters Farm. They have an Etsy shop. Here it is. I enjoy it. It's a 2-ply. I would say it's 3 different weights, I think. I would say it probably averages as a sport. I spun it supported long draw. So that's probably the reason it is 75 different weights. Usually my yarn is only 2 different weights. This one is 75. But I think it turned out quite nicely. It's not really giving you as beautiful as it could be. Show the beautiful camera! Show it! That's good enough. I counted by 7s instead of by 1s. Or I have like 800 yards of this. I know that sounds ridiculous, but because I don't believe myself. Because sometimes when I'm using the Nitty Naughty, I accidentally count once up here and once down here instead of just once up here. But then I was not willing to go back and actually I told my husband that he should do it because he's a little bit, he's not OCD because that would belittle people who have OCD, but he's very like, I'm in the box right now and I can stay in this box and think about only the things that are in this box. I can't do that. So I wanted him to do it, but he has thus not done it. Dang him. So anyway, oh sorry. How I spun it was I had 2 different 4-ounce braids and I just split them in half vertically and just spun them that way. So there was no real plan. Now it's always hard to say, but Three Waters Farm, she has a lot of different colors in her. Like this has a lot of different colors in it. So I guess on one level I could say that it is slightly muddied. Maybe I should have spun the roving like as it was instead of splitting it in half. But at the same time, I like the way it looks. And I don't really like it necessarily to be super stripey, which tends to happen when you have the longer color blocks. And it's called Pond Reflections, and I think it looks very reflection-y. Don't you? That's pretty. It's very, very fluffy because it was the long draw. It's super fluffy. See, it's like a giant, it's bigger than my head. And I have a big head. Okay, did I make out with that enough now? think this is the most boring podcast in the universe. And her face is glowing. I know, I'm super white, sorry. So, what am I going to do with this? I think my plan is I'm planning my retreating knitting. I'm retreating! I'm planning my retreat knitting, and I think I'm going to make a Quaker yarn stretcher, which I know is ridiculous because that's written for DK like 150 yards-ish or something like that, 200 something yards. And I have like way more than that yarn. It's not that heavy, but it looks so good in hand spun. Have you seen that? It's Quaker yarn stretcher. I'm not sure who it's by, but it looks really good in hand spun. And it's very easy. Like, it would be very good retreat knitting because it, I mean, I think it's going to be very easy. If it's not, then it's not well written. But there's no like extensive lace or anything like that. And I gotta be honest with you, I really actually enjoy doing lace. Like, I find it very pleasant to do, but I'm not in love with the way it looks anymore. I know, right? Is that terrible? I used to be like, yeah, I don't like ruffles. Now I'm like, yeah, I don't like lace. Like, any minute I'm gonna be like, yeah, nothing at all. I don't know. I mean, well, especially with hand spun, when you start getting into lace, it's like having a very variegated yarn, and lots of times that can get lost. So something simple like with Lala's, is it her My Hope that has that Indian cross thing in it? That looks beautiful, but I hate doing that Indian cross thing, so I'm not doing it. That thing's gorgeous though. And so there's another one that I liked that I looked at, but it was triangular, and I just don't wear the triangular ones very often. Like, I really do much better with crescent, or I believe this Quaker yarn stretcher. Can I just also say that I have kind of I love Quakers. So maybe that's partly why I want to make it. Is that weird? Maybe. They're friends. I love them. So, sorry, I'm trying to find the other patterns I was looking at. That might be interesting to talk about. So I found one that I really love that's beautiful, that it was pictured in either handspun or something that, you know, is similar to, like, it's a yarn that grades like that. But I thought, well, maybe I could just make it in this semicircular shape and then put that border on it that looks so nice. And then I'm like, yeah, that's probably not gonna happen either. So I don't know what to do. I just don't know. This one is beautiful too. This one is called Nature's Lace, and it's by Susan Ashcroft. And that's pictured in a like a Zauberball or something like that. So that was another one I thought I might do. I originally only wanted to do garter stitch, and that has stockinette at the top. But maybe I could do that. That's very pretty, and it's the right shape. Maybe I should do that one. I don't know. I can't decide. Right. Here's my guilty admission. I will totally buy a pattern just to be like, how is that made? And then I may never make it. So anyway, so I was looking at that one. And then I was also looking at this one. It's called The Larch, and it's by Tinks and Frogs Rue. And this is the picture that made me want to make it. Maybe it's also because she's holding it in front of a mountain. Gosh, could I be any more susceptible to advertising? No, I couldn't. But again, the triangular shape, but I think it looks lovely in that kind of, I can't tell if it's feather and fan or if it's just something similar that kind of does this. Maybe I'll do that Nature's Lace thing. Originally, I didn't want to do that much stockinette, but the boomerang, the Quaker yarn stretcher, it does have a lot of stockinette in it. It has also garter rows, but it has a lot of stockinette in it. Oh, I can't decide now. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking. Hoping that'll be my routine knitting. Okay, let's talk about finished objects. It's always the shows where I'm like, I have nothing to say this week, that I end up talking for 75 years. I'm so sorry. So my first project, my first finished object, are my I-cord gloves. Look! His hands. Hands but hands. And they're called I-cord gloves, and I'm sorry. It's the I-cord method for fingers that Meg Swanson came up with, and it is credited in the pattern, which is not by Meg Swanson. And you can, if you look, you can see that there is slight laddering on the fingers. You're not going to tell us as soon as I take it off. So you can, for me, now I don't know that everybody would run into that, but for me there is a very, can you even see it on here? You can kind of see it. Do you see how it looks a little bit wonky right there? Just a little bit. Let's make sure I don't use the wrong finger to show you. Yeah, oh, so you can see there. Okay, you can see there. See? Tight, tight, tight. A little bit looser there. So you can see it. I did intentionally, when I was putting my fingers together, make sure that those were facing in. Like the ladder is not here, it's here. Am I upset by it at all? No, not at all. You can't, you can only see it if you look. If you look like this. And nobody else should be looking at your fingers like that unless they're weird or you're weird. It's clearly nobody weird watches this show. That was a tease. And they're of course very different from one another because they're hand spun. And this is my hand spun. That was the Stony colorway in a superwash BFL nylon mix from Gail's Art. She's a genius. I totally take them. You can see they're a little bit big in the actual hand, but not so big as to make them uncomfortable or unreasonable in any way. If I were going to make them again, I would probably, again, hand spun gauge is a challenge, but I would probably make them just slightly smaller there. I won't even tell you what size I made because I think the pattern is written for fingering weight and this is like sport probably. But I totally take them. And yes, remember last week I told you, and evidently the Stocking to Zombies had a similar, if I can finish this winter thing, the snow will not come. But mine actually worked, people. I'm not saying that theirs didn't, but mine really did. When I was saying that I needed to finish these gloves, I checked the weather and we're supposed to get anywhere from 12 to like 18 inches of snow over the weekend. Really, it was criminal. Like, I told my daughter when I found out not to tell my husband because I was afraid he might go jump off a bridge. He's so skinny. It's so cold. He's over it. Anyway. Oh, but so we're crazy. So I finished the gloves. No, I don't even know if we got 2 inches of snow. You're welcome. It works that way. Now if I could just put the other sleeve on my sweater, it will actually be summer. That would work. Just have to do that this week. Then we'll have really good travel weather. I'm so nervous about the pipeline retreat. Eek! Eek! Okay, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be fine. Okay, next finished object. I didn't block these. They're not even on sock blockers. But I finished my worsted weight socks. This is just a toe up. Oh, with the fish lips kiss heel. I did do that. That's fancy. And it's just a broken 1x1 rib. So knit one, purl one on one row, and then just knit the next row. I did something weirder on the other foot, but it was harder and it looks the same. I don't know what I was thinking. So yeah, and look at how much yarn I had left. Small miracle. I did not even weigh the first one. I did them toe up, but I didn't even think to weigh because this is a skein of worsted weight yak yarn. This is a skein of worsted weight sock yarn. Say it again. Sock yarn, and you're supposed to actually get, I think, 2 balls to make the socks, but I wear a size 11 and I made it with 1. This is the online, Super Sock 8-ply. And it is color number 165. I bought it at Simply Sock Yarn. Did you see that they had a crazy sale this week? I think all of their online sock yarn, and they don't just do worsted weight, they do fingering weight, was like $7.50 a ball. At one point I had like 10 balls in my shopping cart. And then I had to close the window and leave. Because I just organized my sock yarn and I am in no way hurting for sock yarn. No way. So man, it was really hard to pass up that deal, but really, I have enough. Okay, moving on. That's not to say I'm not going to buy more sock yarn, because I will. Just let me be clear. Knitting Pipeline Retreat. Hopefully I can make it a wash. The money I bring in versus the money I spend. No, it can't be that, but you know what I mean. Okay, so here's my Molly hat from last week. I haven't done that much to it, but here's a little bit more done. And that is by Erin Ruth. It looks something like that. It looks so beautiful. This must be like a Madeline Tosh or something, in like a gray, and it's beautiful. Oh no, Prism Symphony. Anyway, it's beautiful. It's like a semi-solid, and it's gorgeous. And this is my yarn from Sadie, who is Knitter's Nightmare. And this is her Tweedy base, which I'm enjoying. Don't knit around your obsessive husband because he'll want to try to pick the nips out. I was just knitting and the yarn was like laying to the left, which is where he sits, and he was like trying to pick them off. That is how it's supposed to be! I just smack his hands. That may be why he won't count my yarn rows for me. My yardage. Because I'm mean and awful. Might be that. Back from Jonas Spring. She's super cute. Okay, other thing you've seen. This is my Not Viagante by Martina Bem. And mine is knit, the original is knit with lace. Mine, a lace weight. In fact, I think it's knit with Wollmeise, right? Mine is knit in a sport weight. This is Beaver Slide Dry Goods 2-ply sock in the mink colorway. And I believe it's an 80-20 merino mohair, I think. But it might be 90-10. Basically, I'm a liar all the time. So there's the top. And there it goes. And I finished the second ball and started on the lacy bit, the mesh, it's not really lace, the like mesh bit, right before I started the third ball. Oh my gosh. I really need a co-host. I cannot talk this much. I don't need a co-host because then it would just be a total insane thing. But so there's that. Mine is not nearly as long as the original version, and that was intentional because the original version is lace, so having a lot of it up here being all artsy and beautiful, it was practical. But with a sport weight, I think it would be too much. Not only do I fear that it would just be like very voluminous and like kind of weird looking, like, but I mean, it might be a little bit Bjork. But it might also, is that showing my age? That's like my like edgy fashion reference. But it also might just be too hot. So I did not make, and also, come on, I'm done. So I did not make it as long. My increases are different, as I said in another episode, etc., etc. So there's that. It looks lovely though, right? It looks pretty on the camera. I think the camera might be doing it better justice than the real world. Maybe. Maybe that could be like my screen meld. And next time... And it's in my bag from the Knotted Bag. Squirrel. Mushrooms. And then last... I am knitting some plain old vanilla socks because I finally got all my socks off the needles. I'm so sorry. By Lovely Jones Lollipop Yarn. This colorway is called Life is Beautiful, which I think is so appropriate, right? 5 Rose Health, 5 Rose Happiness, 5 Rose Prosperity, 5 Rose Love, 5 Rose Friendship, 5 Rose Blessing, 5 Rose Laughter, 5 Rose Vitality. If you add that up, that's a lot of different colors. It's 8 different colors. Super fun. I don't even have 8 colors done yet, do I? I think I have 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Starting the 8th color. Isn't that fun? So Jones is in a lovely ball, but I put mine in a cake because I knew I was going to be taking it to the retreat, and I didn't want that ball escaping. You know how those knitting balls, they just run around. Just run away. So I had to put it back in. I just had to put it in a cake for travel ease. Isn't that a fun, crazy color combination? If you're on the edge of your seat, the next color is like a mushroom color, which is one of my new favorite colors. know, right? It's one of the, it's like it's gray, but it's brown. I love it. I love it. I think it's called mushroom. So there it is so far. Ta-da. Knitting that on double zeros, magic looping. And I'm doing 76 stitches this time because last time 72 stitches was a little snug around the arch of my foot. So many stitches. But I figured if I was going to do that many stitches on this color yarn, it would probably work because it's gorgeous and fun to knit. And with that many stitches, you do get, instead of 5 rows, you get 3 to 4 rows. Just because the circumference is bigger. So FYI, skinny stripes. How fun is that, right? So hopefully, perhaps, there's either quicker yarn stretcher or something else out of hand spun that I'm taking with me. And of course, plain old sock. And I don't know if I'll take anything else. I probably will. Look at this. So how exciting is that? What is that? What is that? Whatever. So I think that's all for this week. Oh, except that I was going to do that. I was going to talk about questions. I'm going to the groups right now. I know that the first question was about my daughter knitting. The first question I was going to answer today. Darn it! Oh, I know. A better podcast would already have that prepared for you, but as we've discussed, I'm not the best. Sorry. Okay, so the next question is from, oh, the suspense I build. The suspense. I'm so sorry. It was right here somewhere. Oh, I'm so sorry. Started knitting. Daughter. Okay. There it is. Question number 7 from Faithful Knitter asks, have you taught your daughter to knit? If not, around what age will you give it a try? Is she interested to learn? Okay. I have not taught my daughter to knit. Not that I haven't tried. My daughter and I have an interesting interaction. Can you see me thinking about getting a therapist right now? She can be a little bit, I get a lot of pushback when I try to teach her things. I don't know what it is about she's a Capricorn, I'm a Cancer, we're diametrically opposed. I don't know what it is. But I sometimes have difficulty teaching her things, like as in literally teaching her things. Now I can teach her things like, you know, like that when you just work it into life, that we're okay with. But any sort of like formal teaching situation often does not go well with us. And I don't know why, but there it is. So she has on and off expressed interest in learning, and she will try to learn for a few minutes and then she kind of loses her interest. She is very easily frustrated by things that she does not pick up very quickly, which is, we need a therapist, which is one of my very bad traits that she has inherited genetically. So the combination of those two things has not worked well for us teaching to knit. She does not like want to learn. She wants to know. That's the difference. She wants to know how to knit, but she does not want to learn. I have offered to let her go to a knitting class, but she has not expressed interest in that. She is, no. So I've tried lots of different things. She is a very antsy, like I am. So I would really like her to learn how to knit or something similar, just to help her occupy her hands so that her mind can be engaged in something a little bit more fully. But we're just not there yet. So at what age? I think the general consensus is if a child can write their name, that they have the coordination to knit. I think that's the general consensus. Montessori teaches them kindergarten, kids learn how to knit. And I shouldn't say Montessori because that's not necessarily what Montessori does. Waldorf schools teach kids to knit as soon as they get them. So I'm sure it's like everything else. It just varies by child. But there you go. So thanks for the question, Faithful Knitter. Caterpillar asks, how did I get started knitting? I'm going to answer that one next time, because I should have a book with me. I thought I had checked these and didn't need props, but I was wrong. Okay, I'll just answer it. So Caterpillar asked how I got started knitting. I taught myself to knit between my senior year in high school and my freshman year, my first year in college. And I just taught myself from one of my mom's like craft compendium things. My mother does not knit. Well, she does now, but she did not knit when I was younger. Nobody in my family knit that I know of. I crochet and they quilt and they do sorts of crafty things, but nobody knit. So, but my mother had like one of those, again, like a giant craft book that in the back says like, this is how you single crochet and this is how you do a back stitch. And it was like that. So I taught myself to knit from that. I knit a crazy, gigantic rectangle. I was trying to knit a scarf, but it was a gigantic rectangle. So that's how I taught myself to knit. And I always encourage people to knit giant rectangles as their first project. Because really, don't make your life difficult. My second project was a sweater though. So as long as you knit the first giant rectangle, then after that, go for it. Fair Isle, whatever, fine. Cables, whatever. My first sweater was cabled. My second ever project was a cabled sweater. I don't have it anymore. I really wish I did. I wish I had it. I'm pretty sure that was my second ever project. Whatever. So that's how I started knitting. I think there's another thing about like books or something. I'll show you the knitting book I bought before I knew how to knit. Okay. So then a quilter knits asked what brands of sewing machine do I have? I have 3 sewing machines. I have 4 sewing machines and they're all different brands. The sewing machine I started the business on was a Singer Curvy. And it was like I'm going to say less than $150 machine. I cannot remember. I would not recommend that machine. It's not a bad machine. If you're just doing like casual sewing, like and you sew once every 6 months, it's fine. It's no big, it's fine. It does not have very much horsepower though. And that's another thing. I knit a lot of heavyweight materials. So my perspective is slightly skewed because of that. It does not do well with heavyweight materials. Like I was my own feed dog, which I sang a lot. And I was sewing. Because I was actually the person, the feed dog was of no use. I was pushing the fabric through at all times. Singer is one of those things where Singer used to produce all their own machines like now they just lease their name out basically to different makers of sewing machines, from what I understand. So unfortunately, just because something it used to be able to say that if it was a Singer, it was going to be of good quality, and you cannot say that anymore. You have no idea where that machine came from. Okay, so that's the one machine that I had, my first machine. But it did get me through like the first 8 months of sewing bags for a living. So it works. Then my mother let me borrow her Janome Gym. The Janome Gym is a small, about 12, 13 pound machine. It's very lightweight. I would highly recommend that machine. Now they are not inexpensive. I believe that they are in the, I am gonna guess, I know she didn't pay this much for it, but I believe they're in like the $800 range. But I could be wrong. Now I'm looking it up because I don't know. Do you have the Janome Gym sewing back? Oh, so that's a very nice machine though. It is lightweight. It's perfect for a casual sewer. Okay, except that it's a little bit pricey. But it has a lot of good power, so if you did need to do something like a drape or something that, draperies or something that was heavier weight and you needed the power, a Janome Gym. Oh, I have the Janome Gym Platinum. So I don't know how much that one is now. It's not actually showing up. There's a Janome Gym Gold, which is $199 on Sew Back Direct. But I don't know anything about that machine because mine is a Janome Gym Platinum. Okay. Well, my mother's that she let me borrow very kindly. But it's a very good machine. Then I purchased for my own, but it's not a fast machine. Now, it's just as fast as a standard machine that you're going to get for home sewing. But I needed something that was faster. Because mostly what I do is just straight line sewing. I don't need fancy stitches. Like I don't need a computerized machine. I don't need to have 75 different ways to do a buttonhole, but I needed more power and I needed something that was faster. So about right after the first of the year, I bought a Juki. And it's a Juki 2010? No, a Juki TL2000. And it is just a straight line machine. It only does a straight stitch. It does not do zigzag. It does not do, okay. So it is not for a standard home sewer. That said, Juki makes a lot of other machines and I highly recommend their brand. Awesome. I love it. And I feel like they're a good value for what they are. This machine is very heavyweight. It sews beautifully through heavyweight fabrics. It has a very deep throat in case you wanted, it's marketed towards people who want to do free form quilting, not free form, but, well, quilting. No, it's not like a long arm quilter, but it's got a deeper throat and it's geared towards that. Like it comes with a bigger feet, like a plate that goes around the bottom of the machine to give you a bigger surface area to work on. I highly recommend it. It's awesome. It's much faster. It is at least twice as fast as my Janome. It's my mother's Janome. She said I could have it. And then I have a Brother Serger, which I do not recommend at all. It has great reviews on Amazon, but mine stinks, quite frankly. I'm not saying that all do, but maybe I just got a bad one. But as soon as I try to sew over a zipper, it breaks. And then I have to take it in to get it fixed, which is obnoxious and expensive and annoying. So again, it has great reviews on Amazon, and I'm sure if you're just sewing like garments or things like that, but again, I need a heavier weight machine and it is not that. Because again, even with lightweight materials, as soon as you sew over a zipper, the whole thing gets out of whack. The knives don't work. The lower looper totally gets wonky, like it gets loose in there, and there's no way for me to fix it as a human. Like I feel like there should be some guide I can like set in there and I could line it up and then tighten it. It's not available anywhere, which is so frustrating because I take it in for a $100 repair and I know that it can't take more than like 10 minutes to do. Okay, sorry, that was a little bit venti. I apologize. So I'm actually looking into getting a Juki serger so that I can start making box bags. Because as a small project bag, I really like the proportions of a box bag versus, like here's my small wedge. This is going to the knitting pipeline machine. But I just don't like the proportions as much. I don't know why. I just don't. I'm a jerk. But other people like them. I don't know. So I just would like to be able to offer some box bags to them. And to do that, I need a serger. So, that's, I think, enough, right? So much talking this week. Just briefly, the last week where I told you I was going to go to Vimeo, it was a lie. We're staying on Blip. We're just using another hosting for the iTunes thing. But everything should be kosher, right? It's totally okay, right? So that said, the podcast upload and stuff might be a little bit off because they just might be. That's another story for another day. Anyway, I hope you have a lovely week, and I will talk to you next time. I will talk to you next time also, besides what I just said, which nobody could understand.